You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Kerry Greenaway and Mark Manley on the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show, only on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. My name is Kerry Greenaway and I'm being joined in the studio tonight by my lovely co-host, Mr. Carl Hutchinson. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Kerry. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. But no Mark Manley tonight.
No, sadly, I'm not going to go into it, but sadly Mark can't join us tonight. He'll be deeply missed, as the Dark Mirror show is mainly about Mr. Manley shouting at you. But no, best wishes and loves and thoughts going to Mark at this particular moment in time.
Very much so, and that's really, he won't be able to join us tonight. So we're not going to be talking about the Anunnaki, which is what was billed as, you know, what we were going to talk about. It's because I don't think we could do a topic like that without our lovely Mark. So we're being nice about him tonight so far.
To be truthfully honest, the Anunnaki, the reptilian overlords, all that sort of stuff, we need the banter, the everything that Mark brings to the show. So, because of the situation as has happened, we're gonna change subjects.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at something completely different.
Yep.
And I have no idea what the subject is going to be, but I'm sure Kerry will tell me what I'm going to be discussing tonight.
Ah, well, you see, I do love a fly by the seat of your pants kind of show. Now, tonight, I was thinking earlier, oh, we can't do Anunnaki without Mark. What are we going to do? So you know what? I was thinking, as my brain does work weirdly sometimes, so you're right, okay. So let's take it right back to the beginning. I'm talking pre-paranormal. I'm talking when we very first started as kids and showed an interest in like weird stuff and the supernatural and ufology and stuff like that. So I'm going back before we knew anything. We just read stories or, you know, watch documentaries or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What was one of the very first, and how young was you, one of your first influences?
Oh, okay. Well, as in the paranormal, as in the UFO part
as
of it?
As in anything, the very first thing you remember.
Okay. My grandmother, Rosie, God bless her soul, she used to basically, when I moved down to Kent from Sheffield, we moved down there as a family, and my dad moved down there because of the steel industry. So we had like all the major holidays. We split it between Kent and Cleveland. In up north and Hartlepool, Middlesbrough, that sort of area. So we every different holiday we had, we went up there, and particularly when we were up in with my relatives up north, the parents or the adults went out for a few drinks, shall we say, local pub, because they lived in a little village location. So a house, and there was a green, and there was 3 pubs. So they all went out, and me, my cousins, we got looked after by Rosie, my mum's mother. Everybody called her by Rosie, but she liked to tell scary stories.
Ah, good old Auntie Rosie.
Yeah, not Auntie, Grandma.
Sorry,
Granny.
Grandma Rosie.
Granny.
Sorry.
But no, she didn't like to be called Granny. She didn't like to be called any of those names. You had to call her Rosie. You got told off if you didn't call Rosie.
Oh, right. Sorry, Rosie.
Yeah, so she used to tell these like ghost stories when we were very, very young, you know, something like this, that and the other. And there was one particular moment when we were particularly young. It was a time of a famous case that was on TV at the time, which was the Black Panther, which was a guy that lived in the area who committed a crime, and he was being followed, and he was like sort of living in outhouses, like fields and barns and stuff like that. My cousins, my aunties at the time, which we were staying with, on my mum's side, had stable blocks outside the back. And I used to go out, muck out, and take the horses in and all that sort of stuff. So at that particular time, it was these stories about, you know, driving along a dark road, and you suddenly stop and you see this figure, and then all of a sudden you get a bang on the roof of the car, and all that sort of scary, scary stories. So that's how I sort of came into it, and I was like, these lived for you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as life went on, I started to look at the ghost stories and stuff like that, and I was always interested in the weird, the macabre, the strangeness, the weirdness that happened. But then I suddenly got to a certain age, because obviously I had my first experience when I was probably about 7 or 8, when we first moved down to Kent. We were staying in this country hotel in Kent while our house was being built.
Mm-hmm.
So me and my brother was in one room. We had a connecting door to my mum and dad's room. They'd go down. We'd have some food. They'd go down to the bar and do whatever they did at that age. And me and my brother would watch TV. And me being the curious one, we'd always like... my brother's slightly older and all this sort of stuff. But the weirdest experience was that there was one night we were in there, we were watching TV. It was about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, so it wasn't all late. But at that age, you're staying up late because you're excited, all this sort of stuff. And I remember this. Me and my brother, we had like 2 beds next to me, a big TV and all that sort of stuff. And we heard this noise at the door. And I watched the door handle go down, go up, go down, go up. And the door rattled a little bit. Me being the curious one, went to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to the door within seconds of this door handle going up. And I opened the door and I looked one way. And looking one way, because where we were in the hotel was a window on a hallway. I looked down the other way, which was a hallway, which was 2 rooms, 1 room opposite, and another room, which was my parents' room, next to us. And then there was a corner, and nothing. And all I saw was this figure in a, as I described it, a funny hat carrying a sword. So I saw this, closed the door, didn't think, but when my parents came in to wish us good, make sure we're going to bed and all this sort of stuff, I explained the situation, my brother explained what went on, and I said what I saw. And it wasn't until the next day when we went down for breakfast, my dad said, because obviously it's a country hotel, you could have had people in fancy dress and all this sort of stuff. We asked the question, my dad asked the question, and said, was anybody? And they went, well, what did you see? And my dad said exactly what I said to him, and I know the words I said. My dad's repeat these words, exactly what I said. He was a funny guy in a funny hat carrying a sword.
Mm-hmm.
But when we described the way he went, being very, very young, didn't realise he turned a direction which was a blank wall. Instead of a corridor, it was a blank wall.
Mm.
So that was my first experience, and from that I got really into it, and obviously life gets in the way. You get a job, you grow up, and then somebody said to me, guess what's at our local pub where we used to hang out? They've got this ghost hunt. It's a lock-in. You can stay in the pub until like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah, it's the lock-in part you were thinking.
I'm there with me, whatever. But I sort of experienced stuff, and the pub, which is still technically my local, I'm still only about 1.5 miles away from it, from the time it happened. But we experienced stuff, and then the company that did the event said, we do other events in the area. So we went there and there and there, and I went on more and more. I had more questions than answers. Mm-hmm. I was into it. So I sort of progressed into everything. So, yeah.
So going back to, when we look at childhood, I just remember reading, like I've said this before on shows, a Penguin book, and it had the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall on it. And that was, I think, going back, I must have been probably, I had experiences as a child that were a bit weird, but I don't really remember them per se. I remember being told that we had those experiences rather than actually remembering those experiences myself, if that makes sense. So the first thing I remember is this book that I read, which is like the Penguin Book of Ghosts or something. And it had like the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall, and it had the photograph in the book. And it just captivated me. It just totally, they've caught a ghost on camera. That, obviously I know better now. But at the time, I just remember that wonder as a child. I never really got that wonder feeling around Christmas or, times like that. But I remember looking at this photograph and having that sense of wonder. And sort of like, so I started reading like Paranormal Magazine, Encounters magazine, and it would have stuff from all over the world, all weird and wonderful stuff that, various articles were in there. Oh, in fact, I've still got them all, so I'll go to them for inspiration if I need inspiration. And in fact, some of the people that wrote for those people back in there, I talk to now. They're like people that I've interviewed or they've been on shows, which is like really weird. And so sort of that's where I first started, was like the reading side of it, like reading the magazines and reading that. But it was really funny because the other night Richard, Paul and myself were talking, and we were talking about things that you, like deep set triggers from childhood that affect you to this day. And I've never known why I had an aversion to like aliens coming down from outer space. And if I have a nightmare, it will always tend to be in the realms of an alien invasion rather than anything else. So we were talking about this childhood thing and what fears, and I was like, I remember when my dad bought the original album, the War of the Worlds album.
Yeah.
By Jeff. What's his blinking name? Jeff somebody or other, wasn't it? Richard, if you're listening, put it in the chat room.
Richard in the chat room will be all over that.
I know, I can't remember his name. And I can see the blinking album cover. It had the tripod aliens with the green eyes. Oh my God! Right, and that I think is it was so impressive. The music of that. Thank you, Jeff Wayne. Thank you, Mark. It was actually Mark who got all over that.
The strange thing about it is, I used to work for a company, and we were based. I was working in Kent, but I had to go down to Somerset, Glastonbury area, and I worked there. And one of the places we stayed at had a pub which was owned by, had a relative that was associated with War of the Worlds. Oh. And they had this Harrier jump jet above the bar.
Right.
It was called Planets.
Mm.
And I just remember that you remember it, like you said, you remember these stories and you get into these stories and you remember. I remember listening to the recordings of War of the Worlds when it first came out. And you sort of come back, you get flashbacks, don't you? Like you just said, Gary.
And it is so iconic as well. When you listen to that music, I mean, I defy anybody who doesn't know some of the songs that were in it or some of the dramatic musical overtures that were in it. Do you know what I mean? And also, I think the voices that they chose for that. I mean, God, they had some very iconic voices in there, didn't they? I mean, they had Richard Burton as the narrator. He was in it. Then there was even the guitarist. Thin Lizzy guitarist, maybe. Maybe Penny will be very impressed with me on that one.
Chat room, or Richard will be in the chat room. They'll
but David Ed's on it. Do you know what I mean? Some really iconic people that had those voices that just like, you know, compel you, really. Not so much these days with David Essex, obviously, with EastEnders and all that, but, you know, back in the day. And because of the age I was, and my dad used to play this blinking album, like, he loved it, right, constantly. And I think that's actually where my aversion to ufology and aliens and stuff comes from. Well, we were talking about this the other night.
It's a trigger point, isn't it?
Everybody
says, what's your trigger point? Whether it's aliens, whether it's darkness, whether it's going to bed at night, everybody has a weird trigger point that has these emotions that rush through into them. And like I said, I didn't like a lot of things, and I had these trigger points. And same to you, is you have that trigger points because of you hearing this music and everything like that. So everybody has a trigger.
Yeah. So then of course, then my brain goes off in a tangent. So I was thinking, off the back of this conversation regarding War of the Worlds and my aversion to aliens, Phil Lynott, that's who that was. Thank you, Mark, again. Mark, oh God, you know your War of the Worlds, don't you? Richard will be most put out, is all I'm saying. He hasn't got to that one as well. So I was thinking, right, so I had a sense of wonder when I saw that photograph of the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall at a very young age, reading that book. But I have an aversion to ufology now. And I think it's because of this War of the Worlds link, because of my father. Blame this one on my dad, right? So, but that kind of is how I sit now in the paranormal field, actually. I still have an aversion to ufology and actually quite sceptical about the ufology world. Whereas give me spiritual or ghosts and spirits and talk in terms of energy, vibration, frequency, stuff like that. I'm all over that. And that kind of, when you look back at your childhood and you start looking at things like that, this is why I wanted to bring this up, because I thought it's just a fascinating concept, right? That, can you pinpoint that for yourself, for how you've gone? Because you at one point was heavily into the tech. Well, still are, really.
No. I got into the tech in a more weirder way than there was a pinpoint. I'll tell you, when I first got into the field of the paranormal, and I went on ghost hunts and I went on public events, I was climbing over the back of people. I was trying to make my own exit out of buildings that didn't have exits. I was scared witless, and I'm pleased to say this. I didn't know a K2 to this, that, and the other. But there was this, and I literally was the scared caddy. You expect somebody on an investigation to scream the living daylights down and go like out of Scooby-Doo. And I was that person. I got absolutely, but I enjoyed it. It was the excitement of being frightened that fueled it. And then there was one time, and I remember it now, and we're at a location in Kent called Lymm Castle, which is a castle which has got ties back to the Roman. It's got ties back to various different dynasties over the years. It's quite a weird place where you go where your mobile signal picks up France.
Wow.
So your mobile signal sort of bats about between the UK and France, and any equipment that he's picking up on radio waves will pick up on France, etc. But I remember this. I was the scaredy cat. I literally what I used to do, I used to wear this Pittsburgh Steelers hoodie, and people knew when I got frightened because I literally zipped it up. I pulled it up around my head, and it was like my cloak of invincibility. I would zip it up, and it was right up my nose. You could see my eyes. But once I got scared, you could hear the zip going up, and there's videos, early doors.
Because your zip's gonna save you.
Cole's not handling it best. But I did that for like 2 or 3 years. When I first got into it, I didn't know what I was getting involved in. But it fascinated me, it interested me. So I literally had my cloak of invincibility, my Pittsburgh Steelers fleece, which I do have, and it's in the wardrobe on a hanger. And I look at it sometimes when I get ready for an investigation and go, I don't need that tonight because I know what I'm doing. But it's there as a reminder. But yeah, I remember the time. It was Lim Castle. And there's a room which has a map on the wall, which has the French coast and the UK coast, has like various different points. But it has a weird... which isn't paranormal, it's a room that basically messes with your equilibrium. So you feel like you're on a boat. So you feel like you're drunk. It feels like you're moving. And one of the things, if you stand in the middle of a room and you're left in the middle of the room with with a blindfold on and ear cancelling headphones, within seconds of you standing in the middle of the room, everybody else is in the room, but around the room, you end up backing onto the map because of the way the floor is. Mm-hmm. And your equilibrium gets messed about. And I did this, and I was like, this is amazing. But then I suddenly was talking to somebody, and they went, it's not paranormal, it's just the way the room is. So that got me interested in it. And the guy was there, and he had these massive cases of equipment. And I'm like, what's that? What's this? What's that? So I started talking to him in breaks and over investigations. Like we went to Biggin Hill, we went to all these places over Kent and all this. But I always asked him a question, what was this? What's this? And I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense why you're using it for that reason. Mm-hmm. So I started like reading about it, getting involved in how things work. And so I started like investigating equipment side of it. So I sort of stumbled across it because of being on an investigation. Because I wanted to know what this thing that flashed. And everyone went, woo, what does that mean? Which could have been anything. It could have been a K2, it could have been this, that and the other or whatever. But I don't actually remember the device. But it piqued my interest. So over the years, as you know, I've sort of like went, oh, well, that's a great bit, but what does it do? How does it work? What's the false positives? So that's how I progressed.
Isn't it funny, though, how one small, almost like small thing leads you into it? I mean, it's well documented how I started. Do you know what I mean? Started purely on the spiritual. I was working spiritually for people and with crystals and minerals. I still do work with crystals and minerals extensively. Not publicly like I was. I'm not selling at the moment, but I'm still working with crystals in the background, and it's that's what sort of got me started really back into it. I always had that interest going back from a kid. You know, I read the Penguin and the magazines. I said that, but then life carries away. I mean, when I got my first tarot deck, that was after that was when I was single again. Back a few times. 30 odd years ago, do you know what I mean? And my friend said, what do you want for your birthday? I said, I'd like a tarot deck.
Yeah, but the thing about tarot decks, the tarot deck is supposed to pick you.
Yes, and I've had that too, but I'd also, in my unknowledgeable state at that time, I'd heard somewhere along the way that you don't buy your own deck. Somebody buys you your first deck. So I sort of sent my best mate out and said, I want a tarot deck. And to be fair, she came back with the Rider-Waite deck, which is actually a really good deck for anybody to use. And I've used that for quite a few years. But the other deck that I got, I was at a boot sale, and there was a cloth pouch on the desk, on amongst all the crap, all the paraphernalia, and I knew it was a tarot deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to the woman and I said, is that a tarot? And she said, well, yeah, it is. And I said, can I have a look at it? And I counted all the cards to make sure the whole deck was there. And then I think it cost me £5, this deck. And it is a great deck. It's a great...
No. Mm-hmm. Just for people that don't know, that go to boot sales, see tarot decks. How many cards should there be in it? Is it like a normal pack of cards where you have 52?
No, 78.
So basically, if you buy a tarot deck from a boot fair or whatever, there should be 78 cards.
Yep.
Okay, just want to put that out there because I know there's probably people there going, well, I bought this and there's not 78 cards or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, 78. So, so... And it was actually, I'll tell you what was strange about that, was the actual tarot deck was a Greek mythological deck and ties into the Greek mythologies in regards to tarot. And one area that has always fascinated me, because, when we were talking about JFK, you were talking about how one of your childhood projects was to do with the JFK conspiracy.
Yeah.
Well, mine was about Greek mythology.
Okay.
And then years later, this deck turns up that's linked to Greek mythology. It's a great, great deck, actually.
Well,
and
it's quite strange when you mention about, obviously, the JFK. Obviously, we did a show a couple of weeks ago. During the day, since we did the show, I've been sorting my house out a little bit, and I opened this bag, and there was my project when I was 9 on JFK.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing now is I did my painting and my project and stuff like that. So I'm in the process of, I gave it to a friend of mine who is very into the art, and she's going to put it into frames, and I'm going to put it on my wall.
Oh, how cool is that?
So
I haven't got my project on the Greek mythology. I'm not a keeper of stuff like that, I'll be honest with you. I burn everything.
Yeah, but I'm a hoarder. Carrie, I'm a hoarder. I've got stuff. It's like when you do your roundup of what the presenters are doing, and you said, "Oh, Cole's been doing stuff."
He's canning your tech, yeah.
And it's like taking him like a week to do. The reason it's taking me a week to do is because I don't throw anything away. I have equipment that I was back in the day, which I got involved in the industry, and I bought. I've still got it. It's still in cases. So I every so often, because I buy stuff and I get sent a hell of a lot of stuff. And like tonight I open a parcel and I've got other bits of equipment that people have sent me that I'm going to look at.
Has your thermal imaging camera turned up?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got 4 now.
4? You could open a museum. Talking of museums.
I could open a museum of paranormal equipment, but the strange thing is about it is because I test stuff and I send back proper false positives and I don't hang any punches on my equipment review. They have respect, so they go, well, don't bother sending it back. You keep it.
Cool.
Which is great because then I get that. But then you realise you then look around your house and you've got boxes there, you've got bits of equipment. It's like I'm sat at my kitchen table with my TV and my lounge, and I literally can probably reach out my arm's length and pick up a bit of equipment.
Oh, how funny.
Because I can do it now. Like, I'll do it now.
Oh, I know what we could do. We could set up a business where we hire the equipment out.
No, because it's my babies.
Mind you, it's a bit like saying I'll hire my crystals out, to be fair.
There's an episode on The Big Bang Theory. The TV program, and there's a character called Sheldon, and he does not throw anything away, and he has a storage locker. So when his laptop dies, he takes that laptop and puts it in the storage unit, and he has to basically break that. But that's me. I've got stuff dating back from when I first started to now. I've got the reason I do a stock cake is to see exactly what I have, how many doubles. I have a major problem with millimeters.
Oh, do you? How many millimeters have you got?
Gary Galkin's device that he developed when his daughter sadly passed away, and that's why it's called a millimeter, and the numbers is her birthday. Mm-hmm. I've got a major problem with them because he bought them out in white. Various different designs, and as the years went on, they were white, and there was this added on. And I bought them. Then all of a sudden, about 5 years ago, he decided to change it to black. So I've got 3 cases of white millimeters. He changed the black, so now I've decided to buy the black versions. Or been given the black versions over the years. So I worked out when I did the stock count, I've got 4 cases of millimeters.
Oh my God.
And they're literally 7 millimeters per case.
See, this is why I don't need to buy my own tech, everybody. I have friends that have multiple pieces of tech. I have not got one piece of paranormal tech at all.
But you turn up, as we did recently when we went to the place in Essex, the bunker.
Yeah.
Turned up with your little suitcase. What's in your little bag? And all of a sudden you were like doing your bit and you're wandering around. And I was watching there because I was obviously filming you on the bit of equipment I was testing on the Stickman, as you call it, or whatever you want to call it. Then all of a sudden you were like, open the box and you were fiddling around. All these crystals turned up. Mm. But that's how an equipment guy does it exactly. They open the boxes, they open the cases, they pull out the bit of equipment. So we do exactly what I do, exactly what you do. With crystals, I do with technically bits of equipment that technically don't have any factual basis of producing any information. Yours is a belief situation. Yeah. Mine is I believe in the equipment and what it tries to produce. So if it's producing that information and you can put out the natural way of producing that information, you've got something that's paranormal. Mm-hmm. Because it's unexplained. Mm-hmm. Not saying it's a ghost, not saying it's a spirit, but there's something interacting with the machine, the bit of equipment you have, you know the reasons how it goes off, it's going off, and you know the reasons that it's not producing anything to go off, so why is it going off? You do exactly the same with crystal.
Well, yeah, I'd not thought of it like that. On my very own little millimeter. Mm-hmm. How funny. Yeah, I suppose it is exactly the same, really, except... Because, again, I'm the same as you. I can't back up any scientific data in regards to my crystals having an effect on the environment. I think it does. I feel it does. But that doesn't mean to say it is recordable data that you can validate and find credible. So, yeah, no, I'm totally with you there. But I have always acknowledged from day one that I work completely woo-woo when I'm out investigating. I'm not a tech girl. You'll see me holding circles and doing those kind of things rather and dowsing and dowsing rods and pendulums and crystal gridding and that kind of that's the work you'll see me do on an investigation.
Yeah. And it's amazing to watch. I watched it for obviously I've investigated with you a couple of times, and that was the first time at the place in Essex where I watched you when you did the crystal grid, and I was like, what's she doing? Because I was sat on my own.
Yeah.
With the Stickman camera or the SLS camera, and I was just thinking, what is she doing? She was like pulling these things out. She was like holding them, and all of a sudden there's these things getting pulled out, and there's these crystal pyramids coming out, and then all of a sudden you set this thing up. But I was getting results on the SLS camera where you were putting this stuff out, and I was getting black spots. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't producing any data. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, the camera shouldn't do this. You're putting stuff out which are technically inanimate objects. So just a bit of glass, bit of crystal, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going, well, why is it producing a black spot on the video? Everything around it is normal. I can see the other people in the shot, but all of a sudden you're putting in like the crystal pyramid you put out before you went out and did everything else. This thing, every time you went close, went black or produced a heat signature. And I'm going, I can't understand that. I can't explain why it was doing that. And it was, like I said, the SLS camera that I was using, I was testing, isn't the typical SLS camera that isn't down to the Microsoft Kinetic camera. This thing picks up on environment, it picks up on this, and it picks up on that. So it's not the Microsoft camera that a lot of people use, which has a lot of drawbacks and a lot of false positives. This camera, basically, unless you stood right in front of it and waved your hands, wasn't mapping anything. And we proved that in the tunnel. And I showed you on that. And we had some weird stuff that happened. But when you were setting up the crystal grid that you did in this one particular room, I was getting black spots, i.e. the camera went black. So it was a square, and what you were doing was black. So there wasn't any heat, there wasn't any cold, it wasn't picking up anything. But it was mapping everything around it. So I had a black square which had nothing in it. And that's the weird thing about what... Because you were doing I didn't know what you were doing because you didn't actually explain what you were going to do.
No, I just went and did it.
You went into your own little zone, you did your stuff with the crystal grid, and you put this, that, and that. But once you got it all set up, the camera went... But it produced everything. But when you went close to this particular pyramid, you got a major heat rush. And it showed on camera. So...
Which is weird. Even I didn't expect that. I wasn't expecting that at all. It was very strange. We are going to be doing further tests on this sort of thing, you know, with this piece of tech and stuff with the crystals, because it is a fascinating situation. Because neither Carl or I come across this before.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
You test it one day, you can then go into another location, you can test it, your crystals, my equipment, whatever. You can't just go by one particular evening with your equipment.
No, exactly. We could do it another night and nothing.
Exactly.
I tell you what would be interesting is what would be picked up if you was looking at a full-blown ritual. A proper ritual, not just a woo-woo, if you know what I mean. That would interest me.
If you did a full-blown ritual, I would probably, from my point of view, do it from multiple angles, so I'm covering everything. I would probably use multiple same bits of equipment, so the same camera, the SLS camera, the same digital recorder, the same everything, just basically blanket what you do. So I'm covering from all angles and then see what comes up. Because if every single camera produces the same information or the same device or the same environment sensor brings up the same data and you're doing something, there's got to be some. You then got to look at what links in between that.
And then you think, well, maybe nothing will happen. Who knows? It's just an interesting thing we'll be moving forward with. You know, we've talked about this, but going back to Mark has asked in the chat room, do you have any videos of your investigations on YouTube?
What, me personally?
Yeah.
Yes, there are videos, but I'm not going to announce where they are because they're not good. There's one particular video which I know is still out in cyberspace where I'm investigating Biggin Hill. We were one of the only teams allowed to investigate Biggin Hill actual RAF base that was abandoned in 1980 something or other. And the keys to basically the company that bought RAF Biggin Hill is F1. Bernie Eccleston bought F1, and he bought the RAF base at Biggin Hill. So basically, when you see all these on TV, the F1 stuff, and you see they talk about the planes that fly, they go out of Biggin Hill.
Okay.
All the media, all the cameras, or this, that, and the other that they can't drive, because when they're in Europe they drive, but when they go further afield, everything flies out of Biggin Hill. So he has the most amazing car collection at Biggin Hill, and he has Hitler's staff car.
Oh, wow.
Which I believe there's only 2 people that's actually sat in it to a record. But when you're investigating and you see Hitler's staff car and you know the history, you have to sit in it, so there's another person that sat in Hitler's staff car. But unknown to press or media or anything like that, and that's me. But he bought RF Biggin Hill when the military left. But he only turned half of the buildings into F1. All the other buildings were left abandoned. So all the officers' mess, all the buildings with like bedrooms and stuff like that. So we've done, and the good thing about it was it's still associated with Biggin Hill Airport. So the only people that would let you in it was to do with the fire service at Biggin Hill. So we did probably 4 or 5 investigations now through the fire service, and we basically, to get into these buildings was a crowbar, and one of the officers' mess has a tree grown through the middle of the building. We experienced stuff and experienced weird and wonderful things, and it was weird, very, very strange stuff that was going on there.
And that's on YouTube.
Yeah, and there's a bit where I'm walking through one of the dormitories, which is one of the older dormitories, which actually backs on, if anybody knows Biggin Hill, out on the main road there's the Battle of Britain Memorial, which backs onto the building. There's a massive, like, big high fence, and it's like typical military base, big high fence, and there's this dormitory block. And we're walking through the dormitory, and it's got open to the elements because the roof's blown in and everything like that. And this is this video when I suddenly zip up into my black my Pittsburgh Steelers shirt. I zip up, and the camera's on me, and all of a sudden you hear a crunch.
Oof.
And I basically stood on a dead pigeon.
Oof.
And there's hilarity, there's funny quips. There's weird stuff like that. It's all on YouTube. You can find it if you know the right things to search. I'm not going to advertise it because, yeah, but there's other things you see on me. I like the episode where I did with Ghost Adventures. You can Google that. You can find that. You can find other videos that I've done with like MJ and Sage. When I was working public events at Ghost Hunts in Kent, you can see plenty of videos. You can hear me behind the camera. You can, if you know where to search, you can find videos of me scared witless.
Yeah, I've got a few of them out there.
Like a complete and utter scared baby. I ain't going to give anybody any routines. I'm not going to tell anybody where to find them. But if you research hard, you can find videos, pictures of me being a complete and utter scared person. I remember there was one, we were in my, funny enough, the first place I ever investigated, which was my local pub. We went back about 5-6 years later, and we were down in the cellar, and I'm sitting on beer barrels, because the cellar goes down, and it has one room, and then it has like what I describe as, when you go to a butcher's, you have the meat curtains, which are like the plastic things that you walk through.
Yeah, yeah.
Which goes into another room, which is where all the bottles are stored. So I'm sat on there. There's my mate's, my friend Jo. She's sitting on the stairs from the cellar down. She's got the camera on me, and we're hearing noises, bangs, and stuff like that. And I basically did my usual. I'll go, why don't you move the beer barrel I'm sitting on?
Yeah, yeah.
You hear bang, 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 bang. But it wasn't the beer barrel I sat on, it was the beer barrel next to me. And you see me literally trying to climb out the wall.
Well, all I can say is any video out there is from a different incarnation of myself. Yeah. I'm not that person anymore. It was a long time ago. I have improved somewhat. I would say. Yeah, I'm not going to advertise where they are out there. But I have to say, we didn't really get into the videoing thing. Wasn't really my bag. Not really interested in being on camera. It was just going out and doing my thing in the field and having the opportunity to actually work spiritually in the field for a change, rather than, because that's sort of where that started for me. I'd been on. No, Mark, I have not done an investigation on Halloween, mainly because of the kids. It's a festival I celebrate with the boys, believe it or not, doing the normal Halloween thing. And I usually have a party at Halloween. And the Wild Hunt, I have done wood investigations, but I have not experienced anything like the Wild Hunt. But I wouldn't either on the Wild Hunt.
Can I ask a question? What's the Wild Hunt? It's
a fairy lore that basically on the turn of the equinoxes, basically the fairy move. They only stay in a particular woods for a set time. They move around, and they can move around wherever.
Mm-hmm.
But on the night of the equinoxes, that's the night that they do that. They don't just do it once a year; they do it several times throughout the year. And on the equinox, if you're in the wood at the equinox and there's a fairy mound or something like that, there's a tale that they ride. All the fae folk saddle up basically and you know, ride through the forest on their way to moving. But if you witness that, it can drive a man crazy, or it's said to drive you crazy if you witness it, or you get stolen by the fairy folk.
No, okay.
Which is effectively what happened to Thomas Rhymer. But it's well known. But yeah, so no, I haven't, and that's the reason I wouldn't, because you don't mess. One thing I've learnt spiritually over my time is, and this is actually external to the paranormal field. This is something that I think you have to have great respect for, external of the paranormal field, although it's part of the paranormal field.
Yeah.
Have respect, whether or not you're talking to... have respect of the old folklore. It's there for a reason. You know, you don't go searching out for the Wild Hunt. It's asking for trouble. You know what I mean? It's that kind of scenario.
I think the biggest key you've just mentioned is the word respect, whether it's folklore, whether it's practices, whether it's this, whatever, or the biggest key... and this comes down to the thing that we've discussed in the past, is how people investigate because of TV. Because a few years ago, and Aaron Sagers does a very, very good talk about this, and the pop culture from the paranormal when it first started with TAPS, Ghost Adventures, this, that and the other, and how it progressed. And he puts it into segments, and he talks about there was a point early on when it was provoking. It was like, you demon, you come out, blah, 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 swear, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden it changed to this, that and the other. And you can see the development from the paranormal on TV, and you can also see the development from groups or investigation techniques as well. It's
pure recreation of what they see on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing that frustrates me, I think, in the field.
Well, I never got into this industry. It fascinated me. I got into it, and I got into it in a big, big way. This industry, apart from golf, because obviously I'm an ex-golf pro and all this sort of stuff, and golf was my life, and I play golf and this, that and the other. But apart from golf, paranormal has taken up most of my other moments in my life when I was not playing golf or was not doing this. My jobs that I've done during the day have sort of been a secondary. It was a means to an end. But once I got into the paranormal, once I got into the equipment side, that's what fueled me. I never got into it to be on TV. I never wanted to be famous or this, that and the other. I never even wanted to be on radio. I never wanted to do a radio show. I never wanted to do this, that and the other. And I've done both. I've done TV work and I'm still doing radio. I enjoy the radio, but it's not what I got into the field to do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's not why I got in the field. I didn't get in to do a Most Haunted wannabe TV YouTube channel. I didn't want to be on camera. I just wanted to go out and investigate and do my thing and learn and gain knowledge and progress what I do and how I work. You know, that's why I got into the field.
I think one of the funniest
stay in the field.
I think one of the funniest moments in my paranormal crazy giving it up, coming back, giving it up, coming back, scared witless, peeing my pants routine was when I got this phone call, and people that have spoken to me and I've done interviews about this, is when I hung up 4 times on Jeff Belanger.
I know, right? I mean, oh my God.
You look back at it and you think, because I thought it was a complete joke.
You would.
Like, why would Jeff Belanger, the only researcher of Ghost Adventures, be phoning me? But the worst thing about it was I was told by the production company that basically said, would you be interested in talking about your experiences at the particular film? And I was like, yeah, but I hadn't twigged it was Ghost Adventures. They never told me it was Ghost Adventures initially.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. And I remember the first time, I must admit, the first time I met Jeff, when I picked him up at Heathrow Airport, and we talked about this. I remember the first time I was going into central London, few jobs ago, and I was standing at a platform going into central London at like 6:30 in the morning. My phone rang, US number. So I'm like bleary-eyed because it's like, oh, I've had a felt. I'm just want to just vegetate on the thing. Picked my phone up, went hello, and it went, yeah, hi, I'm Jeff Belanger, I'm the researcher of Ghost Adventures. And my first words to Jeff Belanger was, yeah, right, mate, and hung up on him. He phoned back again, and I hung up on him again. I said some other words, which I'm not going to say on air, but it got gradually worse until my friend went, the next person that's going to phone you is Jeff Belanger. He is the researcher from Ghost Adventures. He does want to talk to you. Please don't hang up on him again. By that time, I'm sat on the train. So when he phoned, I was like apologetic and this, and that's the first words when I met Jeff for the first time when I picked him up at Heathrow. He went, oh, it's nice that you not hang up on me.
Driving up. Actually, what you could have done is done that. Step forward in the car a bit. So you like, are you getting in?
The best thing about it is when I pick up my lovely, my amazing people from the States, when I pick them up from airports, whether it's Jeff Belanger, whether it's Katrina Wyman, even John Zaffis and whatever, they always go for the driver's seat.
Do that? Yeah, because they would, wouldn't they? Because it's the other side, isn't it?
And I went, you can drive, so I just throw them the keys. And then they went, oh yeah, we're on the other side.
Yeah, that's an icebreaker for you.
When I picked up Chris Fleming from Birmingham Airport, he'd had a horrendous flight. The guy was dead on his feet. So I picked him up. He was like in Cloud Cuckoo Land. So I went, oh, there's a charger inside my car. There's a bottle of water, blah, blah, blah. Go and get yourself sorted. I'll put your bags in the boot. And then literally he disappeared around the front of the car. I'm putting his luggage in there. I then went to get into the car and he's nearly asleep in the driver's seat.
Oh, cute.
Because he's that knackered. I went, sorry, Chris, you're actually in the other seat. The steering gives it away. And he was, I'm sorry. And he put his phone on charge. He got himself, like he was like,
got himself well snuggled up.
He was ready to be zonked out for 40 minutes while I drove him back from Birmingham Airport. But I was like, no, you're actually, the steering wheel gives it away.
Oh, I would have just called in the back and said, just take me. I'm laying down on the back seat, mate.
Yeah, the first time it's like MJ, who organises Sage Paracon. She's very, very organised. And there's this one thing, and another funny moment was, she went, "Are you going to go pick Jeff Belanger up from Heathrow Airport?" I went, "Oh, cool." She went, I'm going to send you something. you got to make sure you have that in front of you when Jeff comes out of the arrivals. And I'm like, he's spoken to me. He knows who I am. He's seen me on the show. I had to stand there because MJ wanted it. I love MJ a bit, but it is funny. I had to stand there with a sign, Sage Pericard, Jeff Belanger, on an iPad.
Don't miss a trick for advertising, mate. I tell you, how many people saw that in the airport? I thought, oh, wonder what that is.
Exactly, but I'm like a limo driver. I had like a baseball cap on a hoodie, big step in Aaron Goodwin. And he walked past and went, Carl. And he went, why have you got a sign?
It's all right, MJ told me to, so yeah, that's what I did.
I did. But that's another funny moment.
Because she'll want a photo to prove that I did this too, right?
Yeah, Trina Whiteman was another prime example. I picked up Richard Eastop last year at Terminal. We picked him up at a different terminal. Katrina was diverted to another terminal, so I picked up Richard, got him into the car. Richard Eastep, the amazing author. So got originally from the UK. So got him in the car. So he had literally like a bag and a hand luggage and all these books and stuff like that. He was obviously been on a flight, and then we had to drive over to Terminal 5. So Terminal 5, the arrival lounges, has 2 exits. So I stuck Richard at one end, his work with Katrina, and obviously I know what Katrina looked like, seeing her on the show. So I stood at the other end. And we stood there. MJ texted and went, have you picked up Katrina? I went, no, her flight landed like 2 hours. Me and Richard at one end and the other. And she went, well, she just messaged saying she's at Starbucks. And I'm like, how could she be at Starbucks? There's no way. Somehow she got past me and Richard and stood at Starbucks, which is literally about 40 yards from the car. When I got up, then me and Richard played boot Jenga because Katrina, because obviously she was in the UK, she had more luggage than any other person, so we had to play boot Jenga. But she got past, we got past, and it was just, how did she get past us? She's like Katrina Wyman. She's been on TV. Flat all right. We're paranormal people. Richard will work with her. I've seen her on TV. We know what these people look. But then again, you don't realise what people look like when they get off a transatlantic flight.
Well, this is true. And she might have been incognito. She might have done that deliberately.
Literally, she had a baseball cap hoodie.
That's what I mean. Like, head down, follow the crowd, exactly. Don't make eye contact. Boom.
Don't make eye contact.
Because we've all done that in places before now, everybody.
She obviously just wanted Starbucks. She saw a Starbucks sign and she went for it.
I'm having coffee! Anyway, we're coming to the end of the show, darling.
Oh, is it already an hour?
Already an hour. I know, right?
Wow.
Not bad for winging it.
Winging it. It's just a chat.
Exactly. So next week on the Dark Mirror Show, we're going to be talking about the gin.
Gin, yeah.
Gin. We're talking about gin.
Not gin as in gin.
No, as in gin.
Sliced in a lemon.
We're delving into Islamic folklore.
Ooh. Wow. So we're going away from the UFO and the conspiracy that we've covered recently.
We're hitting home turf for me, is what I'm saying. Well, I've given you guys a free run for the last few months, actually, I think you'll find. And I'm popping in a Kerry kind of topic.
We have covered some of our hot spots and some of the things that both me and Mark have a passion for. But then again, lovely Mark, no matter what subject, we put subjects to Mark and we just think, go and find somewhere where you can shout alien.
I know, right? He does it every single bloody time.
That little so-and-so, always, even down to the most obscure, even down to the Kennedy assassination, he brought in an alien.
Mate, seriously, I've been trying for years with him. Years. To find a topic where he won't find. Actually, I think we did. I think we found, and this is going back to the beginning with me and Mark, when we did the torture show, I don't think he had an alien in there. But from that point...
I have a plan. I have this thing in
cunning plan.
Cunning plan. It's like a cunning turnip, but more cunning. There's a Blackadder for anybody listening.
Yeah, I know, right?
I will find a subject where Mark will not, on modern day Dark Mirror show, since I've joined, and I'm very, very honoured and lucky to be on the show and being asked to be one of the co-hosts.
Oh, we love you on our show.
I've got to find a subject where I can stump Mark with no alien connection. I thought the subject we covered, that I thought there's no way he's going to find a. I remember one episode when we were talking about the girls in Portugal.
Oh, Fatima.
Yeah, he's still an alien linked to that.
Yeah, but to be fair, I kind of expected that one.
I didn't. When I looked at the research, I was like, how can you bring aliens into that? But then again, you brought aliens, and then you brought like a earthquake in Russia.
I knew you was going to bring Tunguska. Yeah. Tunguska, whatever it's called.
Put it this way, I will find a subject, and people that are listening that get bored with my voice, I do apologise, but I will find a subject which will stump Mr. Mark Manley. He has no reason to say aliens.
Oh, well, I think the next few weeks he's going to have plenty of opportunity to talk about aliens because of some of the topics I know are coming up. But next week, I say, we're talking all about the Jinn, and yeah, we're going a bit woo-woo. Woohoo!
We're going to go a bit woo-woo, we're going to go back yay and a bit woo.
We certainly are. Anyway, on that note, that's the last show of the week. So I will join you on Monday on the Parasearch Radio Facebook group page for your weekly roundup of what's up and coming next week for the shows. And you can get to hear everything about what the team have been up to. And, yeah, that's what's happening.
There's one thing that you got to do. When you go onto this, when you go and research the network, when you go on and look at past shows, what do you have to do, Kerry?
Click like, share and subscribe. And on that note, we bid you a very farewell.
Every Monday, that's the bit I look forward to. Click like, share and subscribe.
And night.
Good night, and thank you for listening to me drivel on, and obviously we're a different type of show, but obviously circumstances with Mr. Mark Manley, he has not been able to, but we will be covering the alien overlords at some point.
We most certainly will. We can't do it without him. We couldn't have done it without him.
We can't do the show without, particularly on that particular subject. We can't cover that show without Mr. Mark Manley, and big respect, big love to Mark at the moment, and to Liz as well.
Yeah, definitely. Good night from me.
And good night from him.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.